Hello, this is Emily with Yesterday's Stash. Today I'm going to show you an interesting project that I worked on using as many different types of paper that is in my stash. I'm trying to de-stash. I have lots of different papers and I'm trying to de-stash. So here we go. The first thing is the book that I made. The outside of it uses this kind of paper here. This place in town called Not Just Paper went out of business, and they took a lot of their things to our local thrift store, and this was one of them. And I asked them, I said, where did you get this paper? And they said, when Not Just Paper went out of business. And they had been bringing their used items or taking their used items over to the thrift store for several months. So this had been in the thrift store for several months. But it looks almost like wallpaper. It has a very nice finish on it, shiny. It almost looks like hand-done, hand-molded paper with an acrylic finish on the outside. It almost looks like something that you would see in a wallpaper pattern, but that's not what it is. It is actually a paper. So I took it and I did a finish with antique linen, distress ink, and rubbed it all around. And then I took this, it's called metallic gilding polish. I found this from the Cheryl girl on the Ridge, her YouTube channel. I was looking at it. And this this little applicator comes out. You wash it after you've used it each time, but it just lives right in here. This particular one is called Enchanted Gold Gilding Polish, and that's what I use to give it this sheen. Or it already had a sheen, but this gives it a little extra sheen. And so I used a Tim Holtz clasp, and I actually used a real wallpaper pattern on the inside that kind of coordinates with the book, and then used a ponytail holder to hold it together. And without anything in it, this book is very thin. You can pick this up, you can take it with you. It's all about keeping up with the notes, keeping up with things. You have, the need to write down somebody's phone number, or you just want to list a book that someone's told you that they have read, or you want to write your groceries down on a list of paper, or someone tells you about directions to go someplace, or a neat place to pick up items and things of this nature. So that's the whole purpose of this book, but the theme is to use as many different pages as I can. And so the name of the book is Just a Note. Just a Note. And further back here, there is a place that's just a page that says Just a Note. So this is a Just a Note journal for you to take and go and take with you. But I have filled it. As I'm going through here, I want to show you some of the things that I have added. I've added to the book, which when it's all added, it's really fat. So we need to, if you really wanted to take and use this book, you would probably need to take out. It's 30 pages, front and back 60 pages. Used a it's probably around a 20, it's thicker than resume quality. It's probably a 30-pound paper in this brownish kind of a craft look that I've used throughout. And then just taking different designs or different fabrics. A lot of sewing went into this. It's 5 by 7, so it's easy to put in and out of a book bag or a backpack or a pocketbook. And let's get started showing you some of the different things that I have put in here. The first thing is, and all of this so far, everything I've shown you except for this metallic gilding is going to be used. There's a couple of things in here that I bought that were new and paid full price for, and the gilding polish is one of them. But here's just deep in a bin, I was at the thrift store, or these little cards. It says, just a note to say I'm thinking of you. It's by a company called Elam, which, and then here's another one that just says, just a little note to say you're awesome. So these two go in here, which I have actually taken a piece of upholstery fabric, which kind of looks like jute, and added a lace and a binding design with a zigzag stitch on it. So as many pages as I could, I wanted to add little spots for you to do journaling or to write on. Another thing that I came across is a nice, good-sized tag for a journal using paint swatches. And here's the paint swatches that I had come across, that I saw, and just sitting in a bin in the thrift store for, you know, a couple of cents an ounce, and nice thick cardstock quality paper that you can put a collage design on and add it to add some bling or whatever, and make it a design or something that you can use. And then I added this ledger paper here so that you can keep up with your notes and lists and so forth and so on. I use some scrapbook paper, and I also am an Anglophile, and I found a book that had all these beautiful wildflowers of England. So I made a couple of tags using the book pages. Here is where I have taken some of this ledger paper and glued it down. I used an antique linen all the way around. It kind of has a green, a sage green sort of a look to it. Coffee dyed paper here. This is actually resume quality paper, so that's 24-pound paper that you can use to write on. Then used some scrapbooking paper out of a book that I have by Susan Branch. And then here I also have taken some scrapbook paper and just made, this actually is using the paper that young children use to write, to learn how to write. It's got those big lines on it, but just using scrapbook paper and stapling together and coming up with a way for you to just have a little book to take and go. And this is the paper that I found at the the scrapping store, or it's called Scrap Exchange. It's the thrift store. And for $1, I was able to get, you know, all of this paper, which I've got to use up. So that is what I have used this for. This is a ribbon that I did a little sewing across. More of the paper. And then this right here is where I embarked on a project after watching Nick the Booksmith on her channel. She had done some echo dyeing, and I decided I had to try that. So I went out in the backyard and I pulled all kinds of leaves and flowers and things. And you know, granted, this is late fall here, so just not a whole lot to choose from. And I did come up with some pretty neat contrast. This is a blue paper, lots of the patterns of the veins of the leaves. It really turned out. The only problem with my paper was, even using 32-pound paper, I ended up having all these little holes in the paper. All of it ended up having where I made it too tight. So what I have done is I have decided to use the paper, but just as accents for pages. So throughout most of my books, until I run out of this, I'm going to be using the paper from that. And this is just an example of where I added just a little accent to provide character to a blank page, where you can. This is an actual scrapbook page that had a grid on it, and I thought it would be good to add some little extra touches to. I even actually found a piece of lace to stick up here. I have lots of lace, but I was really wanting to put as much sewing into the book as I could, and also add as many different tuck spots. So one of the things that I did find and used is this type of paper. It's ledger paper. It's the old-timey XL paper that you would, just take and stain. I've got 3 or 4 different kinds of these huge, partially put together pads at the thrift store, just a big stack of different craft papers that are just sitting there until someone decides to take it and do something with it. So I have picked up several of those, and also I found this really interesting book at the thrift store that has, you unscrew these, and then this is a bank ledger book, and it has on here name, address, rating, business terms, credit limit, and so forth. The only problem with some of these pages is when you fold them, they crack, so that they are actually, it's too old to use it for a page that you fold. So that's where I've come across taking this big, heavy ledger book, bank ledger book, and just cutting out the pages and gluing them down on a sturdier paper, and it helps to use that paper and extend the life. Another thing I have come across is what we call GRE flashcards. I found a whole box of flashcards for $1 at the thrift store, and I'm trying to use them up. And what these are just cards that you can take in. It's thin. The paper is shiny, but you can take and use it for various reasons. Number one, just to, if nothing else, to increase your vocabulary, but also you can put a collage on it, or you can use it for just jotting down a quick set of notes or quick phone number or something like that. I always like to use them in these books. Again, the purpose of the book is to try to use as many different papers as I can to come up with ways to make us taking notes with us wherever we go, to have our little book with us that we can carry our things in, and always know that we've got it safe tucked in a book. So it's for note taking, just a note. I also have a huge collection of postcards. You know how when you go on a trip or a vacation, a lot of people want to take and buy postcards. And so I have been over the years collecting. Like, this is a whole big package of postcards from Bath for 50 cents. This is from Williamsburg, and it was for 50. All of these packages of cards are 50 cents. So that all of these, Smithsonian, this is Montefalco, wherever that is, Montefalco, I don't know where that is. But anyway, I take these, and you get 10 or 12 cards for 50 cents, and so I pull them out and put them in the books. Some of the ones that I have found were not in packs and were already written on. This is John Wood, the Elder, the Greatest Work, William Pitt for Bath. I guess this is, both of these are Bath. Oh no, this is Sudbury Hall in Derbyshire. So you can see that I try to collect as many things from England, or from, I'm a big Jane Austen fan, from places that Jane Austen might have traveled to. So again, I've used some fabric in this one. This actually is a piece of jute or upholstery fabric, and I have sewn onto that. This is more of that paper. What's going to go here is a really interesting thing I ran across at the thrift store. This lady, it was this huge box, and it must have had thousands of these, what she called invitations. So I guess she made this as an invitation, and this is Klimt, K-L-I-M-T. He is from Austria. I was at a museum a couple of years ago in Vienna, and his work was widely displayed. and they had a whole room devoted to his work. So when I saw these, I thought, this is great, but what do you do with the rest of this? Well, I guess you could make it into a little booklet, or you could cut off the white and use it for something else, but it's ripe for being creative with. So I think that you will be able to find a use for it, so I'm going to be sticking that in here in the book, which is really going to make the book fat. Also, I'm sure you're familiar with smash book pages. Smash book pages come from these little smash book notebooks that you can get for 49 cents a piece at Tuesday morning. And it like my favorite person, family. This is a punch out, so you know you talk about different things that you do, and you punch out what you know. All of these have little punch outs, but the best part about these is that you can use them for list taking. So here's one that says life organized. This one, words I wish I'd said, what it was like at Grandma's house. Family wisdom, a favorite quote. So there's so many different ways, and then list. Just to use these papers inside a book like this that's designed for you to keep up with your things, with your lists, with your memories or whatever. This is another one of those paint swatches, and where I did a collage on it, which will stick here. And also on the back I have put where it's easy for you to jot down some information or anything that you need to remember. I've also liked to include these little notebooks here, and this is using some of that kindergarten paper, and so I have several of those that I have stuck in the books. That one goes there, this one goes here, and they're just little take and go, grab and go. Here's a bookmark that I have made from a book of Bargello prints. Read all day, every day. And this will just has a little statement on it. Stick it in here. I came across these, a package of these that are those little kind of packages, coin packages, or you keep your change in it, which I'll put in there. And then I also have, we live close to several libraries, and they are always giving their things to the used stores and the thrift stores. All of these are art, and but they can certainly be used a lot of different ways. These are nice, clean finish and nice cardstock that I try to put as many of these in to keep the book from getting too fat, but yet still give plenty for you to have to use. This page here is just an example of how I have taken lace and trim and scrap fabric, scrap paper, stamping, sticker, and made little pockets. This is where I have taken Tim Holtz paper, which is two-sided, and I have sewn around it and have done little design. I've put some bling on it and stuck them down in here for you to pull out and use as you need to. This is postcards that I found must have come from a library. I found it at the thrift store, and I've just got to figure out how to use all of these postcards. You can use them just as postcards, but there's a lot of other uses for them. So this is all of the postcards that were in the package. This huge lot of papers, nice cardstock, nice cardboard, having that book design on it. And I guess they used it for letting people know about events that were happening at their library, but they didn't need these anymore, so here we go. So I've got to come up with ways to use this, and using this as a little tag is one way that it can be used. But it has the picture of the thinker on it, and then it also has, you know, a row of books on it. So it's definitely for the book lover. Another thing that I have used is more of these books that you can take and go. And then this right here is Rolodex paper. And what I've done with this Rolodex paper is I found for $1 a whole Rolodex card and card set, and then you just pull some off as you want and then stick them in your book. This paper has a it's encased in a film, you know, and then, but I have seen people use these little pieces of paper for all sorts of different things, 3D design, painting, sewing, watercolor, making, you know, collages. You're just using them for notes, but that is Rolodex paper that I have been able to use in this. And then we have another one of these. And lastly, we have right here a piece of vellum that has a doily, but the doily is a thicker substance, so you can use it however you want. You can use it as a page, a short page in your book. You can use it as you know, as a tag. You can cut off the fancy and just use the inside of it as a tag. But I put it in, I encased it in here to keep it, kind of keep it safe. And then also I've got two different ATC cards. This ATC card I found at the thrift store, but I made these little bags, these little glassine bags. What you do is I bought a big load of glassine because I figured I would use it for forever. It's a huge big sheet that I bought, and then I put a finish on it, and then I cut them all down using an ATC envelope pattern, and I have put them in here to use. And the other thing is this ATC card. Let's see where this one came from. This one actually came from my home, from Durham, North Carolina. This one here came from Oklahoma. So these different cards have an interesting story behind them, and there's information about them. But this envelope here is one that I've used that piano paper for. These little sprockets here are where the music plays. You stick a whole roll of this into the reservoir in the machine, in the piano, and it actually plays the music. And here's the whole thing, and this tells you that this is Bye Bye Blackbird, I believe, and these are the words, and each, to get that word to come up, the piano hits those notes. So it's really an interesting concept that's not used anymore. I just purely happened to run across this by mistake, and it's just a real fun way to use it. Now, I haven't coffee or tea stained either one of, this paper like I did on the glassine, but it certainly feels just like a piece of vellum or a piece of a piece of glassine that can be used for a lot of different things. Lastly is some of these things I'm going to have to figure out but all of this comes with what's in the book. Is I've taken my Tiffany stamp that I got from Stamp Francisco, and their color is kind of a light teal green, teal aqua. That's the color of Tiffany. And so I took the stamp, put it on the glassine bag, which is one that I store-bought, and then I found a piece of old lace at the used thrift store that had the colors in it. So I've done two of those that will be included in here. And then the Included also is these little thoughtful cards. Embrace the day, enjoy good things. They're just little happy notes. Here's an example of a box that I found, and this is something that I did pay full price for. So I paid full price for the metal gild polish, and I paid full price for these. Everything else, it seems, I'm sure I've forgotten something. Oh, the stamp Francisco, or I paid full price for that. Any other stamps, I can get tons of stamps at the thrift store. But this came from a cupcake shop of all places. So that is the name of the book. It's called Just a Note. It's going to be for sale in my Etsy store. I appreciate your taking the time to come to my channel. I'm new to the community, and I would appreciate for you to subscribe to my channel. I will be putting the information in the description box below about the book and certain things that I mentioned throughout the book that will go in here. Just a note, in the name of the store is Yesterday's Stash, and thanks again.